how I define it, somebody who is obviously has a certain level of expertise and experience in the specific discipline in which they're going to be working. But it's also about commitment. It's about dedication. It's work ethic. It's a function of how well they play in the sandbox with others. It's also how well they're open to other thoughts, other views, other methods, to be super dogmatic and have a view and that's my view and nobody's going to change it is, kind of doesn't necessarily fit our A-team profile, but it's trying to find that combination that really has a little bit of all those pieces.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Dean Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about your people, specifically hiring people that are A players. The A player only mentality has helped our special guest today grow their company to unprecedented impact and to really the innovations they need and to really be competitive in their market. We're sitting down with Dean Leavitt, founder CEO of Boost Payment Solutions, and today we talk about the A player only mentality. And so, what do we mean by A player? Well, he's going to just give you his perspective, but I'll give you mine. An A player to me is someone who can work autonomously, one who can get the job done, do it right, and really figure out how to innovate when necessary. They're not looking to make shortcuts. The A player is able to be adaptable when needed. They're continuously learning. And there's many other things we could put into that profile of an A player, but I think you get the idea. There's an old adage out there about A players will hire other A players. B players will hire C players. C players will hire D players. And so if you have different levels of people in your team and they're expected to build out their team, you will notice this to be true, that A players are looking for other people that will raise the standard of everyone else around them, even themselves, and they're okay with that. They're not threatened by it. But B players, there's a little bit of threatened. They want to rise to the top. They want to be the best player. But if they're not, they're going to hire people that are at a lower level of performance than them. Now, you may have a different experience, but this is just from my perspective. If you want to continue to grow your company, an A player only mentality can help you. My name is Dean Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development where we help managers become leaders. We do cultural transformations inside of fast growth companies. Now, you don't have to be on the Inc. 5000, but I will tell you, if you are pushing the boundaries of growth and you have a certain amount of chaos that's going on, you're always going to have a time when people are not in alignment together. Maybe it's some people that are toxic. Maybe it's some people that just aren't getting it. Maybe things have changed. Maybe they're just not the right people. And we actually come in, do assessments, and help your company grow from the inside out through better leadership, through really specific skills development and coaching in that growth area of leadership. So if that's curious to you, make sure you reach out to us. One way that you can kind of connect with us is through our virtual conversations. We host a monthly unique experience for CEOs and executives of fast growth companies. If you want to check that out, go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. You can find out about what the next topic is, and you will also find out about other topics that we have. So it's a new topic every month, and if it resonates with you, come in, participate. There's no pitch. There's no, sign up for this or anything like that. Now, we will offer to support you if we can, but if you just want to come in and ask questions and maybe even contribute a little bit on those topics, the August virtual conversation is going to be about culture is everything. So look forward to having you there. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations and sign up now. Now, here's the interview with Dean. Dean, how are you?
I'm well, Gene. How are you? Pleasure to be with you.
I am fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation about A players. Tell us a little bit about your company, Boost Payment Solutions.
Sure. So Boost is a business-to-business credit card processing company. We facilitate payments among large enterprises and make sure that all the data associated with those large transactions are properly deployed to the appropriate stakeholders. So it's as much on the data exchange as it is on the actual movement of money.
Well, it's always very important to take payments and for those payments to go in the right place. So we thank you as business owners. Dean, I don't know what's changing inside your world with AI and in the payments solutions area, but can you tell me what's on the horizon over the next 3 years from your perspective?
Well, obviously AI is the buzz right now. I think it's ultimately going to change the ways in which businesses do business, but I think it's also at its infancy. I don't think we've seen really what the true capabilities of AI is. The AI we see today is going to be quite different than the AI that we're going to know about in a year and a half or 2 years from now, just based on how quick it's come and become such a, you know, really a paramount thought across business leaders. For our business, it's very early days. We use it. We use generally machine learning for a lot of our transactional work. But as far as some of the newer technologies that are coming out, it's still very early days. We're exploring different ways in which we can exploit it. But it's until it's a fully trusted series of platforms, like I said, I think it's early days.
Well, Dean, I'm really excited to talk to you about A players. And I think a lot of people would disagree that you want A players in your company. I happen to be one of those people because I have a small team. I want my team to be filled with A players because I expect a lot out of them. I have high standards. The business is, the customers mean so much to the growth of the business. When you think about A players, how do you define an A player?
We have a policy of a team only. And we're, at the earliest stages of a company, when you start a business, it's very difficult to attract the A team players to get that trust. It is a risk for people to join a startup. Luckily, we're 15 and a half years into our business, and we now successfully attract some of the smartest minds and folks available to us. How I define it, somebody who is obviously has a certain level of expertise and experience in the specific discipline in which they're going to be working, but it's also about commitment, it's about dedication, it's work ethic, it's a function of how well they play in the sandbox with others. It's also how well they're open to other thoughts, other views, other methods, to be super dogmatic and have a view and that's my view and nobody's going to change it is, kind of doesn't necessarily fit our A team profile, but it's trying to find that combination that really has a little bit of all those pieces.
I'm really curious about the profile of this. Is this something that's like written down, or is this something that's kind of in the head of you or your HR team, or is it formalized and standardized?
It's really not formalized, standardized, or memorialized really anywhere. And frankly, while the overarching spirit of the type of person we're looking for is the same, the A team player for each department might be slightly different. So I look to our managers to make sure that they can identify, ultimately hire, and obviously retain those A team players. But it is a function of, obviously expertise, experience, dedication, and work ethic. You put those two together and you're going to have a great combination.
So if A team only is kind of a mantra that you guys have adopted, what do we do with the B players? Do they never make it through the gauntlet to hiring, or do we coach them up, or do we, how would you frame what do we do with B players?
Sure. Well, so, sometimes companies make mistakes and they bring somebody on who is not necessarily a great fit. There's a certain element of loyalty that obviously we're going to have for new hires, even if if it wasn't a good fit. So what we do is we try to figure out what might be the best fit. How can we use that person for their, highest and best use within the organization? But occasionally you do make mistakes and you part ways with those folks. We've been very lucky to have made very few of those mistakes over the 15 and a half years that the company's been alive, but occasionally it happens.
I had an interview with a fast growth company years ago. They had a policy similar to yours. And they said, if we went through the hiring process and you interviewed with 5 of our managers or executive teams, and it wasn't 100%, this person's a 10 out of 10. If someone gave it a 9 out of 10, they don't get invited to come in. Do you guys have a similar kind of structure, or would that be too rigid for you guys?
That would probably be too rigid for us. You know, it's again, it's a general profile we're looking for, but some folks are quirky, and you may have somebody who's an incredibly talented athlete that you really want to have on the team because they have a certain type of expertise or experience, and you always want to have that full package of the A team profile, but an A team player can also be somebody that doesn't necessarily socialize with the rest of the organization. Some members of a technology team may work best in a dark cave by themselves, right? So in those cases, while you always want your team to interface appropriately with other members of the team, they're not going to be the folks that are also always out there in the sandbox, yucking it up with the rest of the team. So it's really based on, it's obviously an individualized approach. It depends on what function you're going to be playing in the organization. But I guess the cousin to A team only is, the also the no a-hole quotient in the organization. And that is absolute. That is absolute. We don't want any folks within the organization that are just, they just don't work well with other players. They're toxic. That is that we avoid like the plague.
Yeah, us too. I mean, when we see it with clients, and I'm the one that has to ask all the coaching questions to my CEOs and executives about the toxicity of someone. And I get it. Many times those toxic people are so strong and confident that they're really good at their job. But I've never seen it once they've exited those people, that there hasn't been a lift in culture and energy once that toxicity is removed from the team. I'm sure you probably seen the same thing.
Absolutely. And I said earlier, we haven't made that many mistakes over the period of 15 and a half years. We have made a couple. And in many of those cases, it wasn't just a hiring mistake. It might have been a mistake of keeping people on longer than we should have because of the toxicity they generated. And yes, to your point, once they are gone, it's amazing. It's amazing. You realize kind of the hard way how many people those folks might have impacted in terms of their toxic nature and the negativity. So clearly you learn from those lessons, and you realize that if there is any toxic profile at all, just get it out of your organization.
Now, Dean just said something that I want to focus in on. Sometimes we keep people longer than they're needed. And I've been there. It's hard to fire someone. It's hard because you like that person, or you feel like it's, you made a mistake and you want to try to, fix that. You want to coach them up. And most of the time we've got to pull the trigger a little bit faster than what we're used to. And so one of the things that I have seen in my years of executive coaching is what impact this makes with companies when they have people too long. When you keep people that are toxic, it really has a negative impact on the culture, but also the performance of the organization. And every time you let them go, it really lifts up much easier. And so one of the things I've created with my wife is this book, How to Have Tough Conversations. Because if you are struggling with this, you want to make sure that you do it well, that you're not avoiding the tough conversations, and that we better put a framework in here that will really guide you to that next level. So check it out, buy it wherever you buy books. Now back to the interview with Dean. I've done quite a few interviews on attracting these A players to the organization. So I'm going to take a different approach with you, Dean. You've been, having this A player only approach. How do you lead A players? Is there anything different about leading A players than you would say leading someone that might be a B or C player?
Thoroughbreds want to run. It's not hard to get a thoroughbred to run. So I think the key to working with A players and getting the most out of them and having them get the most out of the organization is giving them rope, letting them use their mind, use their experience and expertise to take you to places, take the company to places that it might not otherwise have gone. So it's a function of trust. It's a function of, like I said, letting them do their thing. You've brought them on board because they're, among the best of what they do. So, when you start putting on excess guardrails or blinders or, kind of limiting what their scope may be, you're kind of caging them in, and you're not getting the best out of those folks. So I think there's a little of that, and it is a lot of trust. You know, it's also in the case of the younger A team players, you got to feed them. You got to give them great snacks. I mean, our pantry here looks like a CVS. So it's a lot about also asking them, surveying your employees, truly understanding what their needs are, both from a workplace environment, from a toolbox environment. It's relying on them in large part to help you understand, what do they need to do the best job they can do. So it's a balancing act.
Dean, you've been doing this for a while. I'm curious if there have been any leadership inflection points that you could share with us today that we could learn from some of the things that you didn't get right at first and now you know better.
It's a great question. Yeah, it's funny. I would say, this is going to sound nuts, but probably the biggest inflection point I've had in my life as it relates to leadership happened when I was 21 years old, when I was a first-time employee at a real estate investment bank. And I had a boss that was one of the most brilliant people I had ever met, but also a horrible, horrible manager. And what I learned from him and my encounters with him is probably the most important lesson you can learn. And that is how not to manage people, how not to lead. And that has really, really stuck on my brain and my soul for all these years. So I think, that was really an incredible inflection point for me as a young man, just really learning what the business world was all about. I'd say most recently, I recently went through a health crisis, which thank God is completely behind me now. But the way in which my team reacted and was supportive was for me a personal inflection point. Just realizing the type of community we had built here, and how supportive they were, how concerned they were, and how just it was really just an incredible experience for me. And I think like I said, just the community feeling that you had here it was incredible.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Dean. I know that, I have this book coming out called How to Have Tough Conversations. And I'm just kind of curious, you've got A players, you've got big, strong personalities. I would imagine you have to have tough conversations every once in a while, probably quite often. What have you learned about having tough conversations that you feel like our audience could benefit from?
Sure. Kind of like when you raise kids, kids may not realize it at the time, but they want to have fences around them. And a lot of time you have to have tough conversations with your kids. A players, while obviously not children or kids, they desperately need their managers, their bosses to give them honest, transparent feedback. And whether or not these fall under the category of tough conversations, they often do get, difficult. They are, whether you're talking to your RevGen team that may or may not be hitting their numbers, or you're talking about your technology or ops teams that might have had some type of snafu where you're hearing some customer complaints, whatever the case may be. People want to hear direct, honest feedback. If they are in fact an A team member, they know that they will personally benefit and corporately benefit from direct and honest and transparent feedback. And sometimes those conversations are going to be tough. I would argue that those who are not necessarily on the A team would find those very disturbing and would avoid them like the plague. But a solid A team member, it's amazing how those tough conversations often really help that individual be even better and become an A+ member of the team if they were not before. So it's part of the job, and it's something that my team and I talk about. The management team, the executive management team, talk about. You have to give that direct feedback. Sometimes it is tough, but it is an absolute necessity.
In the very beginning of this, we opened up with A player profile, and I don't think you said this, but I would add to that is continuous improvement. An A player doesn't rest on the laurels of what they did last month or last quarter, last year. They're looking to do better. I've seen this happen every time. You take the best team out there, doesn't matter what it is. They're like, I know I can do better.
Absolutely. And it's like the organization itself. You're never done. You're never finished. You're constantly hopefully becoming a better organization. And that means that the individual components of your organization are getting better. And that's the people, obviously. I mean, you can have the greatest product, the greatest go-to-market strategy, the greatest technology, but if you don't have the people that are going to deploy it and sell it and support it and maintain it, you just don't have a good organization.
Dean, we're here talking about A players, the A player only mantra that your company has adopted. Is there anything we've left out that you feel like is important to this conversation?
I would say that attracting them is also a difficult thing, especially these days. Identifying and hiring A team folks, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's hard to do it in the earliest days of a company just because, you're a brand new thing and they're an accomplished experienced thing. And to build that trust and build that excitement is not that easy. But once you're up and going and then you get into that A team only mentality, it's really about sharing the passion, having these prospects understand how excited and committed you are as a leader to the future of the organization and what the capabilities and all the opportunities that sit in front of the organization. It's relaying that passion is absolutely mission critical in getting the folks that you're attracted to the company. So for other leaders that are thinking about, how do I assemble that A team, you're passionate about your own organization. Share that passion. Make sure that the folks you're talking to about possibly coming on board truly understand how passionate you are and how excited you are, because it's contagious. So that's something I would really harp on quite a bit.
Well, Dean, we've had a great conversation about your business. Appreciate you being here, but also really the kind of the heart of the business, which is the people. I know you're proud of what the people have done. I'm glad that when you did have your health scare, that they were able to rally for you and probably even prove to you that they can work a little bit more autonomously and deserve the empowerment that you give them.
Absolutely. And, our company has thankfully won a lot of awards and accolades and patents and all kinds of exciting things. Probably the thing I'm most proud of is being a year after year recognized a great place to work, where, you've created an environment, you've created a community where people actually come to the office. They want to come to work. They want to work with the other people within the organization. So that's the one thing I'm probably most proud of.
Thanks for being here, Dean.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Wow, what a great interview. I'm really excited that we had this conversation with Dean today about the A player only mentality. Now think about that for a second in your business. Do you have A players on your team? If you did, you'd probably be a little bit less stressed. I'm not saying everything's going to be just a cakewalk, because A players come with big personalities and whatnot. But if you really want to grow your business, you want people that can think for themselves, that can be empowered, and that you can trust. And these A players are really important for the growth of your company, in my opinion. When you think about growth and you think about leadership, think about Growth Think Tank. As always, live with courage. We'll see you next time.